Hi guys! Now, you've seen me do tackle voice, you've seen me tackle the spoken word with Michael Maloney, Shakespeare. You've seen me having a wreath lecture with Simon Lycett, the Queen's personal florist. Now it's time for me to tackle the written word, and who better to teach me, give me a sublime tutorial than the incredible author, 3 times Booker Prize nominee, actual winner of the Christopher Isherwood Award, the brilliant Andrew O'Hagan. So, follow me, come on. Hello, Andrew. How are you? I'll just do your rug. Don't see the biscuits are out.
Always.
I can't see the Dom Perignon though.
Oh, that's hidden under ice.
Oh, hello.
Good to see you.
Stay there until the other nipple goes hard, then you may relinquish.
Oh my
there
God,
you go.
it's like a shot in the heart.
Yeah, be safe, dear Pinmore. You see, I'm thinking, our Andrew, I've been jotting down things because I'm thinking about doing my autobiography or some sort of autobiographical self-help book.
Oh.
But, my autobiography, I've just given it a temporary writing title, 50 Years an Old Slapper. What do you think of that? Do you think
Perfect title.
Yeah.
Although I might have already used it myself, so.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, what, you're calling it 50 years a slapper? I'll call mine 30 years a slapper.
You always need to be younger. Cut 20 years off everything. The title is yours.
But the thing that I am always missing is structure. Mm-hmm. That is just something that I don't have a handle on at all. So maybe you could help improve my structuring.
That's what I'm here for.
Wonderful.
I want to show you the process, as we call it. Come with me.
Okay. You've got 3 desks. Which desk do we start?
Never get enough desks because each one represents a different stage of the process. It all starts in notebooks. Mm-hmm. Everything starts in notebooks for me. You need to take notes galore. And then you've got the voices, the dialogue, the plot ideas, descriptions. So I always start with them, and I have a stand-up desk where I sort of write these notes. And then I'll type them up over here on an old-fashioned Olympia, which is my actual spouse. Mm-hmm. I consider this to be the great love of my life. And I'll type up notes on this, and they begin to turn into sort of almost alphabetical ideas and notes for books. This is from the last book. Mm-hmm. And once these are typed up, and I've got CVs for the characters and all that, I'll start to think about moving to that desk.
Right.
Which is the desk with the laptop on it. And this is where I'll start to turn all these notes and ideas and scenes into a book. Now this wall here, this big felt wall, which I've just taken all the cards off of from the last book, is where I have rows and rows of scene and chapter notes.
Right.
So when I'm actually writing the book, I'll turn to this wall often to see exactly where I am. Mm-hmm. I've taken the cards down for the last book, and I'm beginning to put notes up for the next book already. So that's the way it works. So that will be full in a few weeks' time. Mm-hmm. I work here at this desk doing the actual composing of the book. So what I want you to start to think about is how to structure the writing of the book so that it's not just this big sort of vertigo-inducing feeling of I've got to write a whole book from my head. What I want you to learn to do is to actually structure the book out on the wall or on paper before you actually sit down to write the sentence.
Oh, right.
Does that sound reasonable?
Well, yeah, it's a bit overwhelming for a Dumbo like me, but I'm sure I can try. But should I just go down to the woods and empty this?
Well, I'm afraid one of the things you have to accept if you're going to be a professional writer is that most of what you write is shite. and has to go into the waste paper basket immediately. So that's today's work.
So, Andrew, how do I start the first sentence of
Well, that's always the most important sentence in the book, because that's the one that will make people decide whether they're going to go on or not.
Right.
So you need to learn from the masters. I don't mean me. Charles Dickens was the best writer of opening sentences in English literature, and I think you steal one from him. Great Expectations, opening sentence. My father's family name being Pirrip, and my Christian name Philip, my infant tongue could make of both names nothing longer or more explicit than Pip. You have the famous A Tale of Two Cities. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. It was the age of wisdom, it was the age of foolishness. It was the epoch of belief, it was the epoch of incredulity. It was the season of light, it was the season of darkness. It was the spring of hope, it was the winter of despair. We had everything before us, we had nothing before us. We were all going direct to heaven, we were all going direct the other way. In short, the period was so far like the present period that some of its noisiest authorities insisted on its being received for good or for evil in the superlative degree of comparison only. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. Isn't that great?
That's great.
So, if we can steal one of them and manipulate it a bit, so your first sentence could be, this is a very popular thing to do nowadays, is to take something like, it was the worst of times, the best of times, the worst of times, and you could turn that slightly and say it was the something of times, it was the something else of times. And people would instantly recognise you were taking off Dickens, but turning it into Lanah E's.
The darkest of times, the lightest of times.
There's your start. So you go from there, and that's you get an opening sentence. Now, what he does is what the opposite of what a lot of writers do in their first sentence and paragraph. Is what they do is throat clearing. You know the way before a singer or a great actor speaks, writers do that too, and it's often really boring. An opening sentence that sort of clears their throat. Don't do that. Go straight in for the kill. Straight in with the strongest perception you have, which will set the tone for the book.
Right.
So, if you had to say one thing about the Tories of the 80s, what would it be? Okay, so you've got your title, 50 Years a Slapper, and you've got to work out how to structure that. So, are you going to start in childhood, or are we going to go straight in to Lanah's glittering career? How are we going to go in there? Because you always got to work out how to start.
Well, I think like the Julie Andrews song from The Sound of Music, let's start at the very beginning, shall we?
Let's start at the very beginning.
Yeah, so it would be, I was born amongst the neon-lights and fish heads of Grimsby Town in 1959. I was born in hate.
Sounds to me like you don't need much help with your voice, by the way. So, okay, after the Grimsby Town fiasco, where are we going then?
Then I think we will go to out of the children's home, into the bedsit, and then on to Manchester, working men's clubs.
So you're basically going to do a sequential narrative from childhood to adulthood, and are you going to have any little segues in between where you stop and go elsewhere, or is it just going to be one thing after the other? One bloody thing after the other?
Yes. Well, we don't know about that. It probably
Because you know about the concept of the flashback. So, for example, you could start the book in a dressing room, or start the book in the middle of a film that you worked on, and then suddenly you flash back to Grimsby. And then by that point, the people reading the book already know who you are, they know what you've achieved, and they know, well, why they'd be interested in going back.
So it might be a good idea then for me to start as an adult in the here and now, reminiscing.
Yeah, either in the here and now, or like on the set of Eat the Rich or something, where you're about to go before the cameras, and then you flash back to the question of where you began.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the big hook back then? I mean, it's the fact of the family, the children's home, and the escape, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the escape was to Manchester first.
Yes.
So maybe you do that as a section, flashing back,
Mm-hmm.
and then you come back to the present day. Because one of the things that needs to be in this book, Lanah, is your politics.
Mm-hmm.
This needs to be a political book.
Right.
Don't you think?
Yeah, well, yeah, being a person, it's about politics, isn't it?
Well, especially with you, because you've never been shy of stepping forward with your opinions.
No, there's not much of a filter, unfortunately, is there?
Well, we don't want a filter on this book. We want it to be warts and all.
Yeah, it's quite punk.
Quite punk, DIY, and telling it like it is, and shouting in the face of mammon, as you would say.
Mm-hmm. Oh yes, mammon.
But hold on, we're going to get a structure going here. So what I'm doing is getting some cards up here. We've had some ideas, you see.
Right.
So we're going to put on here modern day film set.
Right.
That's called Chapter 1.
Right.
Chapter 1. Lanah on set. Chapter 2. Grimsby Town. So where would you go after Grimsby Town? Are we coming back to the modern day?
Yes, I suppose so.
So give me a big set piece, a big scene. Is it a party? Is it a night of stress and show business?
Well, so I think we'd come back to probably...
Love life. I'm just putting that into your notes.
Yeah.
I mean, we might be able to get that in the back.
Well, I don't know whether there's been a love life, but I've certainly flattened a lot of grass in my time.
Well, flattening the grass, chapter 3.
Absolutely.
Okay, so there we've got the first 3 chapters. Look, chapter 1, Lanah on set.
Yes.
Then we've got Wiggly Line, she's going back in time.
Right.
Grimsby Town, chapter 2. Chapter 3, flattening the grass.
Yeah.
So that's the sexy bit that people actually buy the book
Yeah, well,
for.
that would be Manchester. I think that's where it all started. That's where when a good girl went wrong. But you know,
The big question is flattening the grass going to be a short chapter or a long one?
no, that'd be the whole book probably. It'd be at least like 3/4 of it. You know, because when a good girl goes wrong, men go right after them.
So it looks to me like you've got the beginning of this book here.
Oh right. So Andrew, speaking of editing, would you just edit my first paragraph for me?
With pleasure. Now, let me see. We've got... I've got a title page, and then we appear to have... Let me see if I can... oh dear. Well, never mind. It was a lovely experience talking to you.
Oh, well, thank you ever so much for having us, our Andrew. And
Come back and write more bestsellers.
yes, I felt that I've learned something. I found
Me
it
too.
very edifying. And now let's go and have some Dom Perignon.
Right away.
Miss James Caan. You be James Caan, I'll be Kathy Bates. All right.
Why, look who it is on the brand new episode of Craig and Friends, none other than the legendary non-binary trans pioneer, Lanah P.
Hi, everybody. Oh, I think my knicker elastic's gone. Hold on.
Oh, happens to me every time.